Good morning. This meeting of the board is a hybrid physical virtual meeting. I'd like to welcome those in the boardroom with me today. While keeping your microphones muted, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Before we move to the business before the board today, I would like to recognize National Farmers Day. I asked the board secretary to include my statement in the meeting in the minutes. Saturday, October 12th is National Farmers Day. On this day, we recognize the significant contributions that farmers make to our nation. As chairman and CEO of the Farm Credit Administration, I'm honored to acknowledge the farmers, ranchers, and all the agricultural workers who produce food for our nation and much of the world. Farmers and ranchers face a host of challenges, with extreme weather being one of the greatest. As we've seen over the past couple of weeks, floodwaters have destroyed crops, killed livestock, and wrecked farms across the southeast part of our country. Storms like these can threaten not only the production of a single season, but the very survival of a farming operation. Despite these challenges, our farmers and ranchers have helped make our nation's economy one of the strongest in the world. We are grateful for the privilege of serving the individuals who produce our food and contribute to the strength of our nation's economy. I'd like to ask Mr. Hall if he'd have any comments.
I do, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that. As you mentioned, October 12th is National Farmers Day, and it's really a day to voice our appreciation for the hardworking farmers and ranchers of this nation. Sometimes it's far too easy to take for granted the work and the number of resources it takes to provide the raw materials which provide the products of our daily lives. I've spent my entire life in agriculture. Growing up on a family farm is the most valuable experience of my life. As I look at how farming has changed over my lifetime, it's a remarkable evolution. And really, when we talk about innovation, to me, farming is a prime example. The Farm Credit System is a vital part of the ecosystem which supports family farms. And the Farm Credit Administration must do its part to make sure that source of financing is adapting to the innovation taking place on our farms today. There may not be a more challenging occupation than being a farmer, but I am grateful for the men and women who are still willing to tackle that challenge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, any comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just taking off a little bit on what you said for challenges. When I think of challenges in agriculture, as many of you know, I haven't been active in either the operation or management of our family farm in Iowa since coming to FCA, but I did spend almost 4 decades in agriculture and building the operation we did. And I know what it's like to come out of the basement and see buildings are leveled that maybe your grandparents had built, to see crops flooded, to see your whole year's work devastated and destroyed. And I can tell you, it's quite a gut punch at that point. So I really have some strong feelings of empathy, as we all do, for those farmers and ranchers in the Southeast. But one thing, sometimes adversity brings out the best in people, and I think you really can see this in rural America. If you watch the TV, you see neighbors helping neighbors, doing everything they can to help each other get back on their feet. And it really is really nice to see the institutions that we regulate also have that spirit of helping those people get back on their feet. Seeing it firsthand in years past, what those people need more than anything is time to get back on their feet. And it's just neat to see our institutions support that. And after all, we are a cooperative, right? But neighbors helping neighbors, the spirit of rural America, they'll be back. You just need time. And our thoughts and prayers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. At this time, I will ask the secretary to the board to address a few technical and protocol items.
We have a quorum. The full board is present for this meeting. Chairman Logan, Board Member Hall, and Board Member Smith. Your microphone should normally be muted, except for board members and presenters. Please ensure that you have silenced any mobile devices you have with you. The virtual portion of this hybrid meeting is on Cisco WebEx. We have 2 OIT staff, Ben Rana and Victor Amaya, monitoring and managing the meeting. They will be locking this meeting and no new connections will be allowed. OIT will be advancing the slides, so you will hear presenters say, "Next slide." If you are an FCA or FCA staff member, you're considered a panelist. The outside visitors are considered attendees. Everyone will see the slides as they advance. If you printed any of the closed session materials, please ensure that you properly dispose of these materials after the meeting. If you lose connectivity in this meeting, please contact Victor or Maya. Lastly, this meeting is being recorded. The video recording of the open portion of this meeting will be posted for public viewing for a limited period of time. Chairman Logan, that concludes the technical and protocol items. We're ready to continue when you are.
Thank you. The secretary will now read an opening statement on the Government in the Sunshine Act.
This is an open Farm Credit Administration Board meeting under the Government and the Sunshine Act. If anyone raises a subject that may be discussed in closed session as permitted by the Government and the Sunshine Act, Chairman Logan will entertain a motion to close the meeting.
We will now review the published meeting agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as published?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the agenda as published.
And I second that motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote on the motion.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Logan?
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we will consider whether any portions of the meeting should be closed to the public.
The agenda does include items that we should properly discuss in closed session. I move that we close the meeting at that point.
And I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote on the motion.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Chairman Logan?
Aye. Motion carries. Please turn to tab 1. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes as presented behind tab 1.
Move to approve the minutes for the September 12th, 2024 regular board meeting as presented.
And I second that motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, the secretary will record the vote on the motion.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Logan?
Aye. Motion carries. Please turn to tab 2. At this time, I will ask Aaron Livernoy and Andra Grossman to present the proposed rule concerning annual independent audits and internal controls over financial reporting requirements. This is an action item.
Good morning, Chairman Logan, Board Member Smith, and Board Member Hall. My name is Aaron Livernoy, Senior Policy Accountant in the Operations Management and Accounting Team in the Office of Regulatory Policy. With me this morning is Andra Grossman, Attorney Advisor in the Office of General Counsel. I'd also like to recognize Jane Verga, Assistant General Counsel in the Office of General Counsel, and our colleagues in the Office of Examination and FCA for their significant contributions to this project. Today, we present to the FCA Board a proposed rule to require all system banks and associations of a certain risk level to obtain an annual audit of their internal control over financial reporting, or ICFR, in conjunction with their financial statement audit, known as an integrated audit. For an integrated audit, an independent external auditor provides an attestation on both the financial statements and financial reporting systems related to ICFR. Now, Andra will provide background on FCA's ICFR regulation, the accuracy of reports and assessments of internal control over financial reporting of CFR Section 620.3. Andra?
Good morning, Chairman Logan, Board Member Smith, Board Member Hall. My name is Andra. Staff is recommending a proposed update to FCA's disclosure to investors in system-wide and consolidated bank debt obligations of the Farm Credit System and disclosures to shareholders in the accuracy of reports and assessments of ICFR rules. Since 1985, the Farm Credit Act requires system institutions publish an annual report of its financial condition. Generally, FCA has implemented financial reporting regulations that require financial statements be prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and audited by an independent public accountant. In 2006, FCA updated its regulatory reporting requirements to require the Farm Credit Funding Corporation obtain an attestation report from its external auditor that expresses its opinion on the effectiveness of the funding corporation's ICFR. These 2006 regulatory amendments also required certain system institutions include an annual management assessment of ICFR. These are the same rules we are proposing be amended today. Since the time of FCA's last regulatory update in 2006, each system bank obtains an integrated audit to support the funding corporations as a dependable source of credit. The Farm Credit System has undergone tremendous growth and consolidation that has led staff to examine current risks in financial reporting. Aaron will now discuss the details of the system's growth, consolidation, and the proposed rule. Thank you.
Thank you, Andra. The proposed rule before the board today would add requirements for all system banks and certain associations to obtain an integrated audit. The purpose of the proposed rule is to provide additional safety and soundness measures to the system. As Andra stated, the last update to FCA regulations regarding ICFR were in 2006. Since 2006, the system has seen a significant increase in association complexity and concentration. Additional statistics can be found in the preamble of the proposed rule, but I will highlight a few key points. For the sake of brevity, these statistics are as of December 31st of each respective year. Next slide. From 2006 to 2023, the number of associations have decreased from 95 to 56, while total system assets have increased from $162.9 billion to $507.8 billion. The average association total assets increased from $1.1 billion to $5.5 billion, and median association total assets increased from $500 million to $1.8 billion. Total assets of associations holding 1% or more of total system assets increased from $57.6 billion to $236.1 billion, a 310% increase. In 2006, associations that held 1% or more of total system assets held a combined 35% of all system assets. In 2023, these associations held 46% of all system assets. And finally, for those associations who held 15% or more of their bank's direct loans to associations, the percentage of bank direct loans held by those associations increased from 42% to 60%. These numbers show that certain associations hold an increasing percentage of total system assets, while the number of system associations are decreasing. As associations become more complex and the system has fewer overall associations, the probability that an ICFR weakness or fraud event at one association can become significant to the safety and soundness of the system. As associations become more complex, the effectiveness of ICFR becomes more important to the association, as well to its district bank, and more broadly, the system. If a bank or significant association had a severe enough deficiency in its internal controls, the funding corporation's ICFR could be labeled as not effective. This could cause credit downgrades for the system and make it more expensive and more difficult to issue debt. Integrated audits increase the likelihood of detecting a material weakness or other developments, such as a fraudulent event, that could affect the safety and soundness of the entire system. Additionally, the cooperative structure of the system and the joint and several liability of its debt increase the need to ensure there is safety and soundness oversight over ICFR. Staff reviewed the audit requirements that govern publicly traded financial institutions institutions regulated by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and other federal financial institution regulatory agencies. In general, other regulators have established requirements that mandate a regulated entity engage an external auditor to conduct an annual audit of its financial statements, as well as, depending upon an institution's size, an integrated audit. We determined the compliance, tailored, and focused requirements in this proposal are more appropriate for the Farm Credit System than the asset minimums imposed by other regulators. Additionally, staff consulted with the Farm Credit System Insurance Corporation. FCA stated that the concentration of associations has impacted FCA's risk of insuring system banks. FCA believes that an integrated audit at certain associations would provide further assurances on the integrity of the financial and accounting information, as well as help mitigate large losses to the insurance fund that could result from an undetected management error, negligence, fraud event, or failure. Therefore, to ensure the system continues to operate in a safe and sound manner, staff proposed requiring an integrated audit for all banks and for certain associations. An integrated audit will provide an independent review of an association's ICFR environment, examine different controls in a different detail than current requirements for management assessments, and strengthen the ICFR environment, enhancing shareholder and investor confidence in the system's ICFR. The proposed rule will amend Section 620.3 to require system associations obtain an integrated audit if the association's total assets were 1% or more of total system assets as of December 31st of the previous fiscal year, or if an association held 15% or more of its funding bank's direct loans to association as of December 31st of the previous fiscal year, or if FCA staff in the Office of Examination determines that a material weakness exists in the association's ICFR or other developments have occurred or are expected to occur that could adversely impact or result in significant changes to the association's ICFR that impacts the safety and soundness of the association. Under the proposed rule, associations would have 3 fiscal years to obtain their first integrated audit unless FCA staff determine it is appropriate to obtain an integrated audit sooner. Staff believe requiring associations to obtain an integrated audit when their assets equal or exceed 1% of total system assets is appropriate because this threshold captures associations that pose a systemic risk to the system. Staff also believe requiring associations to obtain an integrated audit when their direct note payable to their bank equals or exceeds 15% of the bank's direct loans to associations is appropriate because these associations hold a large concentration of their bank's direct loans and may pose a systemic risk to the safety and soundness of their bank. This requirement ensures associations that hold a large concentration of bank direct loans also obtain an integrated audit. Finally, Section 630.5D2 deals in part with the Federal Farm Credit Bank's Funding Corporation's requirement for an integrated audit. Amendments to this section would conform to proposed language in Section 620.3. That concludes our presentation, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Does the board have any questions for the material presented? Mr. Hall.
Dear Mr. Chairman, Aaron, we've had briefings on this in the past, but it's a proposed rule. Remind me the comment period and how long that will extend.
We would have a 30-day congressional review and then a 60-day comment period after that.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
No questions.
And I have no questions. So there are no questions for the board. I ask the staff to provide their recommendation.
Staff recommends the Farm Credit Administration Board approve the following resolution. Farm Credit Administration Board hereby approves the attached proposed rule that revises FCA regulations at 12 CFR Section 620.3 and Section 630.5D2 to require integrated audits under certain conditions. The Farm Credit Administration Board authorizes staff to make any technical or grammatical changes to the proposed rule that may be necessary prior to the publication in the Federal Register or for compliance with the Congressional Review Act.
After having received the staff's recommendation, is there a motion from the board on their recommendation?
Yes, I move to approve the staff's recommendation regarding the proposed rule concerning annual independent audits and internal controls over financial reporting requirements.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, the secretary will record a vote on the motion.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Hall.
Aye.
Chairman Logan.
Aye. Motion carries. Before we move to our closed session, I'd like to acknowledge Trevor Rushell, who will depart FCA this month. I ask that the board secretary include my statement in the meeting minutes, please. Trevor first joined FCA on January 2023 as senior advisor and later director for the Office of Congressional and Public Affairs. One of his early tasks was helping me with my first major address to the farm credit system in San Diego in early 2023. He hit the ground running, literally joining me as I traveled across the country to meet the system personnel, including representation from every bank district and many associations in those first 6 months of that year. Since then, under Trevor's leadership, we have increased engagement through social media, continued to work with Congress to secure our agency's budget requests, strengthen our crisis communications, and continued the important work on borrower complaints. I want to thank Trevor for his dedication and contributions on behalf of the board and wish him the best. Please turn to the closed session tab. I would like to thank the members of the public for attending this meeting. The next agenda item is a topic for closed session. Because this agenda topic is exempt under the Government and the Sunshine Act and the board has voted to do so, I ask that the members of the public and staff who are not attending the closed session, please leave the meeting.